more ingenious.
Cette semaine, Madame et Série s'entretient avec le grand patron de l'écriture de scénario, John Truby. Depuis plus de 25 ans, le script doctor secret des plus grandes chaînes enseigne les ficelles d'une bonne histoire à des milliers d'élèves à travers le monde. En perfectionnant ses cours, il a suivi de près l'évolution de l'écriture de Série et nous en donne les clés.
I've been teaching TV drama for over 25 years, but what I teach in TV drama has changed radically because in that amount of time, we had very few serials. A little bit, Botchko, that's about it, you know, ER. But now, all the best shows are serials. And the writing techniques for serials are radically different than the writing techniques for TV drama in the early 1990s. Television, I think, is where the best writing, the best storytelling in the world is done now. And I believe that television has far surpassed film in the last 10 to 15 years, both in the quality of the storytelling and in its effect worldwide on an audience. And I wanted to explain to writers how this kind of quality is possible, because I believe that it is the result of great craftsmanship, the ability to tell a good story, especially in the TV medium.
L'an dernier, plus de 450 séries ont été diffusées aux États-Unis. Les challenges se multiplient pour leurs créateurs et c'est dès le pilote qu'il faut capter l'attention du public.
Mr. Finestra, is there a problem with the document?
American.
I beg your pardon?
My company's name. It's American Century. You dropped the American.
Still, if you are a network show, there's tremendous emphasis in the pilot that it has to be a really fast-moving, exciting story right from the very beginning. We want a lot of plot, we want a lot of payoffs, because we've got to catch the audience right away. Otherwise, they have too many choices. But that's because the network is still seeking the biggest, broadest audience they can get. But if you are doing a show for a very focused cable network or somebody like Amazon, they don't care about a big audience. They want an influential audience. They want an audience who loves the show so much that they will actually pay the subscription fee to be in that network. And so they're much more focused in terms of their audience that allows them to do a much more high-level story, and that allows them to do the pilot where they do a lot more setup. No matter what the show, no matter what the network, no matter what the genre, the pilot should be a miniature of the entire show. Having said that, there is a difference, and that is that even if you're not setting up a lot of characters as you get in these really fantastic serials, you still have to introduce a number of characters, where they're from, what the basic desire line of the show is. You have to do all of that in the first episode. So the great challenge for writing any pilot episode is that how much setup do I do and how much story do I do in the same episode? It's very hard to do both. Even on these slow setup shows, you have to have some story payoff, some really good plot flip that you're going to do at the end of the pilot to hook the audience. If you look at a show, for example, like Peaky Blinders, which in my opinion is the best TV drama now on today, out of the UK. This is a show that first 2-3 episodes, very slow. Mad Men was the same way. Why is that? It's because the setup that they need to do to get the complexity of the tapestry of all these characters takes a long time. The more characters you're tracking and the more you want to interweave those characters, the longer the setup time takes in the first episode and typically even into the second, third, and even fourth episode. But the payoff for that, if you do that setup work, the payoff at the end of the season is phenomenal. And you see this, for example, with Peaky Blinders. You see this with Mad Men. You see this with Breaking Bad, that the final, typically the last 2 episodes of the season are blowout episodes. They're incredibly great. That's because the confluence of all these threads is going to come together at the end of the season.
This is who I am! And this is all I can give you for what you give me, for your hearts and your souls.
Un bon pilote ne sert pas uniquement à se garantir un public. Il est indispensable pour permettre à l'histoire de grossir sur plusieurs années sans faiblir et s'autoriser à dériver du plot de départ. C'est ce qui s'est passé avec Mad Men, dont le héros Don Draper a finalement été éclipsé par d'autres personnages.
I think Don Draper is clearly the driving character on that show. But over the course of the seasons, what I think Matthew Weiner found out was that the most interesting characters are the female characters. And I think that's because they were the lowest in power, and therefore their struggle for freedom, their struggle to rise up in the organization. When you're trying to track a show for multiple seasons, in that case 7 seasons, then you have to look at some of the other characters, and if you can't make them really come alive and show their growth, then the show is just going to run into a dead end.
Well, it's either me or her.
Joan?
Scarlett.
I think you mean if she goes, I go.
What did Dawn do?
Well, I'm almost positive.
Just keep talking to her, because she's a partner.
Aujourd'hui, c'est la télévision qui impose les nouvelles règles d'écriture plus complexes et sophistiquées au cinéma. Elle a inventé un nouveau rythme et une richesse narrative sans limite.
The plot beats come sooner and they come faster. And what you get right now is what I think is the single most important technique in story, certainly in Hollywood film writing, which is what I call the vortex technique. And this is where you set up a kind of tornado, a vortex, that you have a very broad scope, typically of space and time at the beginning. And again, it takes a little time to set it up, but then you have a vortex point, a point in space and time, where all these characters are going to funnel down to get to that point, which means that as the story progresses, the plot is going to speed up. Until we get to the very end of that vortex, the plot is coming at 150 miles an hour. And this, I believe, comes from the influence that television has had on film writing.
Pour tout savoir des nouvelles méthodes d'écriture, l'ouvrage de John Truby, L'anatomie du scénario, ressort en version augmentée avec des focus sur Mad Men et Breaking Bad et les réponses à toutes les questions que posent les élèves aux maîtres.